5 stitches, 1 creative path. Today I'm teaching 5 herringbone style stitches with the Northern Lights seed beads from Beads of the Month, giving you the building blocks to recreate this necklace or design something uniquely yours. So let's get started. So let's get started with the first herringbone stitch. This one we're going to do the traditional herringbone. Now I'm just going to make a little small swatch on each one of these stitches so that way you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like. I've already completed all of my samples, so that way you can kind of see the differences in what the stitches are going to look like and the differences in lengths, because each one of my stitches has a total of 96 rows on each one of them. This first one that I did is approximately 6 inches, and that's what I was going for, so I can kind of have a good idea as far as the length it's going to be and everything, and then make that be the amount of beads and stuff that I use in each stitch. So also, if you are familiar with traditional herringbone but you're not familiar with some of the other ones, you can always go down to the description down below. I have a timestamp showing you exactly which ones are in which time, so that way if you're familiar with one and not with another one, you can go jump to that one. Alright, so we're going to start off with the traditional herringbone. So this is what it's going to look like up close. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. So that's what it looks like up close. So you can kind of see over here, you can see it better on the green beads and everything. You can see a little bit of a thread path right there. And that is typical with the traditional herringbone. Now there's other things that you can do to hide that thread path. You can always put some beads on the outside. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to do the traditional type herringbone on this stitch. I'm going to do a total of 20 rows with you. So what we're going to start off with is I'm going to pick up 2 of my pink and 2 of my green. And we're going to first do a ladder stitch. So I have 2 pink and 2 green. And then I'm going to slide these down to the end of my thread. Now you have the lengths of the thread in the supplies page before each stitch, so that way you kind of have an idea of how much thread to have to be able to make a 6-inch piece or 96 row piece of your herringbone stitches. Now bring it all the way down, and then I usually use my watch as a gauge as to know how much that I'm going to have left over, so that way I can add the wire guard on both ends. So once you got your beads down there, what we want to do is start off with a ladder stitch. So we're going to go back through the pink beads, both the pink beads, and then come back out. When you do that, that should sit your green beads sitting right next to your pink ones. So I'm going to go ahead and reinforce this one more time. Just go back through the green beads and then proceed back out through the pink bead. That's just to give it a little bit more stability. Now we're going to start the actual herringbone. So we're going to pick up 1 of our pink and 1 of our green. So you always start with the color that you're coming out of and then pick up the other color. So we're coming out of the pink, we're going to go straight through that green, but just that first bead. Just the first one, not both of them this time. When you pull that down, you may have to kind of play with them a little bit, but they should sit in a V shape. Should sit just like that. To complete the stitch and get ready for the next one, we now have to move up to the next row, which is also called a step up. So we're coming out of the green bead, that second green bead now. Now we're going to go through from the bottom to the top of the green bead above it. And then that gets us set up for the next stitch. Now you can do this in a couple of different ways. You can do it in the way that I'm going to show you how to do it, or you can flip this in your hand if it is more comfortable for you to go in one direction. So I'll show you this way first, and then I'll flip it in my hand and show you the opposite way. So always pick up the bead that you're coming out of first, which is the green one, and then pick up the pink one next. We're coming out of that green bead, we're going to go through the pink bead from the top to the bottom of the bead, but just that first bead there. And when you pull that down, it should sit your beads just like that. Now we have to step up to the next bead in line. So we're going to go up to the next one, which is going up from the bottom to the top of the pink one, and now you're set up again for the next row. So I'll do one more with the pink, and then I'll show you the green when I flip it the opposite direction. So I picked up a pink and a green. Coming out of the pink, go from the top to the bottom of the green, and get yourself set up for the next row. So go through that next green bead. Now I'm going to show you the way if you were to flip it in your hands and see what that looks like. So now you're coming out of the green, so if you do the flipping part, then you just have to make sure that you're picking up first the bead that you're coming out of, and then second the bead that you're going to go into. And you do just that. And then you would go through, do your step up, so go through the pink bead, and it looks just like that. And then you would flip again in your hands, and now it looks like the original part. So go ahead and complete the amount of rows that you want to complete until you get down to the last two beads again. Now here again, if you have a set amount of beads like I did, the quantity of 96, we're going to go through to row number 94. So that way row number 95 and 96, I will show you how to add the ladder stitch at the end to make these ends kind of look the same. And then I'll show you how to add one of the wire guards, and then the wire guard itself is going to be the same thing that you would do on this end too. So I'll meet you back in just a moment. So once you have 2 rows left with your beads, then let's go ahead and make this end of our herringbone stitch look similar to the end down here that we began with. So pick up 2 of your pinks and then 2 of your greens. So the last 4 beads that you need for the rows. I'm coming out of the pink, that's why I picked up the pink first, and then I'm going to go down the green. Now this one I'm going to add just in a typical herringbone stitch to begin with. So we're just going to go down that one row, and then we're going to go up the green bead, but in this case we're going to go up the 2 green beads since we added 2 on this row. Now we're going to complete this and make it look similar down here. So we're going to have to complete the ladder stitch. So go back through, we're coming out of the green, so we're going to go back through the 2 pinks that we added. And instead of going upwards like we would with the typical herringbone, we're just going to go straight across to the green, just like that. And then that gets your beads looking similar to what we started off with down here at the bottom. Now you can see my tension's a little bit weird, which is always the case whenever I'm doing some videos and stuff like that. Sometimes my tension is not the best. So down here, you can see a little bit better. You can see there's my 2 rows of ladder stitch, and then at the other end, it kind of looks like ladder stitch also. It doesn't have to be exact, I'm just looking for something that looks similar to what you have on the other end. Alright, so let's add our wire guard. If you're not familiar with a wire guard is a little horseshoe shaped item. It has 2 little holes down here at the bottom, and then there is a channel up here at the top. Typically used for wire, but those of us that like to use thread and needle, we use them sometimes to help out with stability on some of our products. So that way when we use jump rings or attach clasps or ear wires or something like that, it helps to keep the thread from fraying too quickly. So we're going to go up one of the sides of the wire guard, and then we'll pull that down to the product. And then I'm going to go down the other side of the wire guard. Now for me, this is what I usually do when I'm using it with thread and needle. Go down the other side of the wire guard, and then I lightly pinch the wire guard in between my 2 fingers, and then that helps to allow the thread to go through and stay in that channel of that wire guard. Just like that. Now we need to get back over to add another layer in there. I would suggest to put at least 2 thread paths. You can always do more if you want to, depending on the size of thread that you're using, depending on the size of the needle that you're using, and depending on the size of the seed beads or the beads that you're using. Sometimes the beads won't allow you to go through it more than twice. Sometimes the wire guard won't let you go through it twice. But I'm just following our little, I'm following the ladder stitch portion here. So I came back down the 2 beads of the pink, jumped over to the green, going up the side of the wire guard again, And then we're going to do the same thing on this side of the wire guard. Go down the wire guard. I went ahead and went down the 2 pink beads as well. You don't have to go down 2, you can go down 3, you can go down 1, whatever's convenient for you. And then I'm going to use my little pinching technique to keep the thread inside the wire guard. So what happens if your thread, let me see if I can get it to back out some. What is it going to look like if your thread doesn't end up in the channel? It will end up looking something similar to this, if I can get it to work. There we go. See how the thread, whoops, nope, you can't see that. There we go, that's better. See how the thread is creating a line through your wire guard? Then that's when you know that your thread's not in there. If that happens, if you catch it early enough, then all you have to do is just take your needle and just gently pull up on it to make it loose again, and then pinch it again in your hands, and then just ever so slightly. You don't have to pinch it really hard, just ever so slightly, and then that allows your thread to go back through the channel. Now we're just set to tie off. To tie off your thread, all you have to do is just go underneath one of your thread bridges. Switching my words up again. One of your thread bridges. Create yourself a little loop, then go through that loop. You can do it once or twice. Go through the loop once or twice, and then pull tight. Then you want to go down a bead or 2, and then do the same thing. Of course, this is kind of far away from my head, so it's kind of hard to see. There we go. And so since this thread bridge is out on the outer side of the green bead, I'm going to try to go up underneath the thread bridge and then do the same thing. Just create one little small knot, and then I'm going to follow the thread path through that bead, and not poke yourself like I just did with the needle, hopefully. And after you get away from your knot a little bit, then that's where you would burn off. And then just burning off, you take your thread burner, which I have not changed the battery in this, so hopefully it works pretty good. Take your thread burner, go down close to the end, about 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch, and then that leaves a little small mount right there. And then you take the thread burner and you create a little ball of thread that sits right there next to the bead. And then that's how you burn off your thread. So that's how you would do the traditional herringbone stitch. So after you get your length done and you have the one wire guard on, then all you would do is you would put your needle onto the other end of your thread and then add your wire guard on this side. So meet me back in just a moment and we'll go through the next herringbone type style stitch. This stitch actually probably has a different name. Now I call it Alternative Herringbone because I don't know exactly what it is because it's made something similar to a herringbone stitch, but it could be ladder stitch, it could be something different, it could have its own specific name. I just call it the Alternative to Herringbone or the Alternative Herringbone stitch. So in this one we're still using 2 different colors. I'm still going to do a little small swatch. This is 96 of the beads again, in 96 rows and everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with one color that has a little bit more beads because we're going to do a traditional herringbone in the back, but then we're going to do the addition of the bead on the front part. Alright, so let's start off with it. We're going to pick up 4 of our bead that we're going to have down in the back. And we're going to bring this down like we did with the other one. Now leave yourself more of a room. I'm just leaving just a small amount there because I'm going to show you how to add the wire guard on the other end. So we're starting off with a ladder stitch again. So go back through the first 2 beads to allow this to sit, the 2 beads, the 2 rows sitting next to each other. So now we're going to get ourselves set up to do a herringbone, the alternative herringbone stitch. So herringbone, you always pick up 2 beads. We're coming out of a blue one. We're going to go through the blue one, so we're just going to pick up the 2 blues. We're going to go down the bead on the right, just like we would with the traditional herringbone. And now we need to get ourselves set up to add the next row. So in traditional herringbone, you would go from that second bead and then jump up to the third one like we were doing. In this case, we're going to pick up another seed bead. We're going to go from the right hand side, that second bead. We're going to go over to the left hand side second bead. Well, maybe. And then we're going to go through both rows right there. So we're going to go through the second and the third row. When you do that, that now puts your bead in the center of the herringbone stitch. So I'll do that again. So pick up 2 beads for the traditional herringbone. We're coming out of the left bead. We're going to go down the right bead. Now we need to get set up for the next row. So we're going to pick up our second color. We're going from the second bead down on the right hand side. Whoops. We're going to go directly over to the second bead on the left hand side. And we're going to go up the second and the first bead there to get ourselves set up for the next row. And then there's 2 of your alternative herringbone stitches, or whatever this thing is called, and done. So I'll do one more a little bit faster. And then you would just continue this on. Now you notice in my sample here that it twists and turns. I like to use this stitch because of that variety that it creates with the different stitch and everything. So there you go. So go ahead and you would complete the length that you want to complete on this one. Like I said earlier, excuse me, goodness. Like I said earlier, I did a total of 96 rows for each one of my samples, so that way you can see the differences in lengths. And I will show you at the end, before we put these all together into the necklace, what the differences in lengths look like. Man, that's getting hard. Okay, I don't know why that was hard to get in there, but it did. But I'll show you the differences in lengths and everything, and you can already kind of see how it's starting to twist a little bit. So go ahead and complete the length that you want to complete, and then meet me back, and I will show you how to add on that last little couple of rows again to make it look similar to the front, and then your wire guard again. See how much twisting and turning it already does with just a small amount of rows? I believe I have 19 rows on here right now, and see how much twisting it does? It's pretty neat. I like this stitch. Alright, so I went down all the way down to the end, so I'm adding my last row now. And then you would just do it in a typical fashion. Then we're going to put the alternative herringbone last stitch in there. And then the last thing that you would want to do is just go through your last 2 beads again, just like that. Now instead of going through the front, which you could do if you wanted to, I'm going to go through the back. I'm going to flip it around to the back, so now the thread is coming out of the left hand side. I'm going to go over to the second bead on the right hand side, and then I will finish this stitch to make it look like ladder stitch in that fashion. When you pull that tight, then it makes those 2 last beads a little bit tighter. And you can go through that one more time again if you want to. Now the addition of the wire guard is very simple, very similar to the first one. Go up one side of the wire guard, pull it down, go down the opposite side of the wire guard, and since I'm coming out of the left hand side, this one's going to be going down the right hand side this time, whereas the other one we were going down the left hand side of the wire guard and the stitches. And then I'm just going to go down a couple of beads again. This time I went down the 2. I'm going to go ahead and go across with the alternative color that we put, and then go up here again on the left hand side, the last 2 rows, and then catch on to that side of the wire guard, give it a little bit of a tug, go down the other side of the wire guard, and then now after that, and you get your thread to sit in the channel again. Now it's time to tie off, and you would tie off in a very similar fashion, so I won't show you how to do that again. But that would be your alternative herringbone stitch. So meet me back in just a moment, and we'll go through herringbone stitch number 3. started on the tubular herringbone. So this is what it looks like up close. So you've got 2 rows of herringbone of one color, and then you have 2 rows of herringbone in another color, and then it's connected together. So that's what we're going to learn on this stitch. So we're going to start off with our ladder stitch yet again. We're going to pick up 4 of the first color, which is going to be the more pink colored bead. So I'm going to pick up 4 of those. And I'm going to pull them down to the thread. There again, leave your correct amount of thread. Use your watch or your wrist as your gauge to see how much that you need to leave. I'm going to go back through the 2 beads, the first 2 beads that I put on. Just like the other herringbone stitches, how we started off. Now the difference with this one is that we need to create 2 more rows of the other color and then put them together as a tube. So I'm coming out of the left hand side, trying to make sure it's focusing. We're going to go back down the right hand side so we can add another row of ladder stitch. Now this next row, we're going to add 2 of our other color, which is going to be the darker colors. Now we're coming out of the bottom part of the ladder stitch on the right hand side. We're going to go through and in the same direction as the thread path is going at the moment in those last 2 beads. Then that puts those 2 beads of the second color sitting next to the first color. Now we got to get set up to add 1 more row. So we're going to go back up the last 2 beads, add on 2 more seed beads, and then we're going to go through in the same direction the last 2 beads again. So now you have your 4 rows of your ladder stitch. Now we need to get these 2 together. To get that set up, we still need to go out to the beads on the right hand side. So go ahead and go back down the 2 beads that we just added. And now we're set up to make it into a tubular portion. So all we're going to do is we're going to taco this. So we're going to make it to where the first row that's over here, where our starter thread is at, is going to connect to the last row that we added. So we're coming out of the bottom part of that last row. We're going to go wrap around to the first, go from the bottom to the top. And then when you do that, it starts to pull everything together. Now we need to complete the row up at the top. So we need a thread bridge up here at the top. So we're going from that top bead on the first row. We're going to go through the top bead on the last row. And then that creates the thread bridge over here. And then that completes our little tubular portion. So now we need to get set up to where we can start doing our herringbone. So we're coming out of that last bead, that last row of the bottom-most bead of the last row. We're going to go back up the 2 rows again on the first row. And then I'm going to turn this in my hand a little bit. So now I'm only going to see the 2 rows of the pink beads. Now this portion is just like typical herringbone. We're going to pick up 2 beads. We're coming out of the right hand side bead right now. We're going to go down the left hand side and just 1 bead. So we're just going down 1 bead again. If you go down multiple beads, that gives you a different stitch, which we'll go through here soon. So now we need to get to where we can add our second color. So we're coming out of that second bead on the right hand side. We're going to go up the first bead of the second color on the left hand side. Then when you pull that tight and you turn it in your hands, it now is set up to where you can add your herringbone stitch of your second color. So pick up your 2 beads, coming out of the right hand side, go down the left hand side, whoops, and just that 1 bead again. And then when you pull that down, you now have it set up to where you have 3 rows of herringbone of both colors now. So now we need to get set up for the next row. We're coming out of that second bead. We need to make sure that we go through the first color again, but we need to make sure that we're going through that second bead again. So we need to go through this bead, and then we're going to step up through the row that we just added. So in this portion, we're going to step up through, or go through 2 beads. And then that gets us set up for the next row. Just like that. So I'll do it a little bit faster. Pick up 2 beads, go down the left-hand bead, just the one. Don't go down multiples, just one in this stitch. Twist it in your hands a little bit so you can go up the left bead to be able to add on the second color. You can obviously do this all in one color if you like. I'm doing multiple colors to kind of help teach the stitch. Once you get this part on, you're now set up to where you're going to have to do your step up. So make sure you go through that second bead and then proceed through the first round, or the first bead that we just added. And then that gets you set up for the next row. So now we've added 4 rows of tubular herringbone. So go ahead and complete that until you have 2 rows left of both colors, and then meet me back and I'll show you how to finish that off to make it look similar to this part, and then how to add the wire guard on this stitch. Alright, so now we have 18 rows of the herringbone done, and of course you're going to have the length that you want in your herringbone style, or in your herringbone length that you want. That really didn't come out right, but I think you get the idea of what I'm trying to say. So now we're going to add the last 2 rows, and we're going to make it look similar to the ladder stitch that we did down here at the bottom. So go ahead and pick up the last 4 beads of your first color that you're using. Add this in traditional herringbone style. So coming out of the one right-hand side, we're going to go down the left-hand side. Make sure the beads sit like they're supposed to on top of each other like that. Then switch it over, go up the last bead in the second color, and then we're going to add the last 4 beads of the second color in the same fashion. So coming out of the right hand side, we're going to go down the 1 bead on the left hand side. Now this one, there we go, make sure everything's sitting correctly. This one, if you're kind of confused on which one that we're going to go up, since we added a couple of rows at a time, you can see right here that here is a thread bridge right here. So then your next thread bridge is going to go just directly above it. So we're going to go straight over to this bead right here, but we're going to go ahead and go through the 2 beads that we added, just like that. And then we're going to connect these 2 rows of herringbone and these 2 rows of herringbone in a ladder stitch down here like we did down here. So we're coming out of that first color on the right hand side. We're going to go down 2 beads of that color, so the last 2 beads that we added on the left hand side. We're going to switch over and we're going to go up the last 2 beads of the second color. Before we move on, we need to make our thread bridge up here at the top. So we're going to go back through the 2 beads of the first color on the right hand side. Just like that. And then that puts our thread bridge up here. Now we're going to have to go to where we get on the other side over here. So we need to go through the beads on the left hand side again. Go down the beads of the second color on the left hand side. Then twisting again, we're going to go up the beads of the first color on the left hand side. And before we finish this off, we need to make the thread bridge for those 2 right there, because see how there's no thread bridge right there. So we're going to go down the beads on the right hand side one more time. And then that puts your last thread bridge there. So that's how you would finish this one off. Now to get to where you can add your wire guard, just pick whichever one that you want to go through. Go through the 2 beads. I'm just going to go through the first color. I'm going to go ahead and add the wire guard here. So we're going to add it in the same fashion. And there is just a slight little variation to this as far as where to put it where to put the other end of the wire guard and how to get back around again to add the second row. So we're going down the other half of the wire guard. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going through the first bead of the first color. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to this one where it's the first bead of the second color, and I'm going to go down those 2 beads. Now, like I said, you always want to add probably at least 2 rounds of your wire, or of your thread through your wire guard. So to do that, we need to get back over here, going in this direction. So we're going to go from this second color, we're down on the second bead, we're going to go over to the second bead of the first color on the right hand side, but just that 1 bead. So just that second bead there. It's going to add a little bit of a difference here on this side, but you're never going to notice it unless somebody's looking at your product that closely. So now we're coming out of that second bead on the left hand side of the first color. We're now going to go at a diagonal and go up just that first bead on the right hand side, and then I went ahead and went through the wire guard one more time. Oops. Okay, camera, quit. There we go. I hit the camera at the same time. Alright, and I got myself a little knot here, so I'm going to try to get this out. That happens sometimes when you're using thread. And most of the time it's just the thread just wrapped around each other. So there you go. So then that's how it's going to look. So you see how there's a little bit of a diagonal right there, but nobody's ever going to notice that. So then on this side, you just go back down this side, and then go down a couple of beads again, and then once you get that done, then you would tie off very similar, in a similar fashion that we did in the first one. So that's how you add the wire guard on your tubular herringbone. So once you get done with that one, meet me back and we'll go through stitch number 4. Twisted Tubular Herringbone stitch. And then this is what this one looks like. This is probably my favorite of the herringbone stitches, is Twisted Tubular. Now of course it's using an even number again of the beads, so it's going to be very similar to the tubular stitch, only there's just one variation to it. So I'm going to start off pretty quick and pretty simple. There again, ladder stitch. Trying to get enough room on my thread here. So I'm going to pick up 4 of the pink beads. And then bring those down. There again, leave yourself enough room so you can add your wire guard with your thread at the other end. I'm just doing this portion quickly because this is the same thing that we did in the last one where we did the ladder stitch beginning with 4 of the first color and then 4 of the second color. So I'm doing this little part a little bit faster. And the part where it becomes different than the traditional tubular herringbone is how we go up and down the beads. Remember how I had said in the previous clip that if you go down more than 1 bead, it'll be a different stitch? Well, this is the stitch I'm going to show you how to do. So almost done with this, making it into a tube now, and now getting myself set up to where I can start the Twisted Tubular Herringbone. Alright, so we're on the solid pink color, so I'll call this as maybe just the pink and the red. This one's got like a AB finish to it, but I'll call it pink. Whoa, hello. Focus! Anyways, you can kind of see it. There it goes, the pink, and then I'll call that the red. Alright, so we're going to pick up traditional herringbone, so we're picking up 2 beads. We're coming out of the right hand side of the pink beads. We're going to go down the left hand side. We're not going to go down 1 bead, we're actually going to go down 2. And this is how it makes it tubular. So then twist it in your hands so you can get ready to add your second color. So you went down 2 beads, but now you're going to go up just 1. So we're going to go up that second bead of the red color. Twist it again in your hands, and then now you're set up to add your red color, so pick up your 2 beads for your herringbone. You're going to go down 2, on the left hand side, if you're going in the same direction that I am. Then we're going to twist it up through our hand, in our hands, and we're going to go up one, but this one we're going to have to do our step up also. So when we do a step up, we're going to go through two of them. And then that will get your twisted portion started. So now twisting it again. So now we're set up to add our pink beads. So we're going to do this again. 2 pink beads. Go down the left hand side, but go down the first 2 beads. So you're going to go down 2, up 1, down 2, up 1. So there's those 2 beads added, twisting in your hand. Now we need to just go up 1 bead, twist it again, and see how they're kind of sitting off to the side a little bit now? How they're not sitting on top of each other? It's already starting to twist. We're going to pick up 2 of the red beads, go down 2 on the left hand side. I keep poking my finger at the same time. That's not working. So go down 2 on the left hand side, twist it in your hands again, and then we're going to go up 1, but this one we have to do a step up also. So this particular one we're going to go up 2. So if you decide to do more than just 4 beads in your tubular herringbone, then that last one where you do the step up is always you're always going to go through 2. So I'll do this one more time and then I'll break off and let you finish. So pick up 2, go down 2, twist this in your hands, and go up 1. Pick up 2 more beads, go down 2, twist it in your hands. Now you're having to go up 1 plus do your step up at the same time, just like that. Alright, so go ahead and get this completed. See how it's twisting now? You can see that there's a difference in how it looks. So go ahead and get this completed until you have 4 beads of both colors left over, so that way we can do our ladder stitch on the other end in a similar fashion that we did on the tubular herringbone. See you back in a minute. Once you get down to the length that you want and you have just 4 more beads left over of each of your colors, then it should look something similar to this, and as far as the length is concerned, you'll have a different length. So let's go ahead and add the last of our beads in a similar fashion that we did with the regular tubular herringbone. So pick up the 4 pink beads. We're still going to go down 2, and then we're going to twist and go up 1. And then the last of these 4 beads, go down 2, and then we're going to go up 1 and then do our step up through the last 2 beads. So this one we're actually going to step up through 3 beads. And then now we just have to connect our last 2 rows in a ladder stitch fashion like we did down here. So we're already coming out of the pink bead here. This one I'm doing a little bit different than the last one because I kind of forgot that I could just start right here. So I'm going to go straight back into the last bead of the second color, the last 2 beads there. Then that puts a thread bridge up at the top. We're going to complete the ladder stitch by going back through the pink beads on the left. And then that puts a thread bridge down there on the bottom. Twisting it a little bit, go ahead and go through the pink beads on the left. Twisting again, go through the 2 beads of the red ones on the left to get that thread bridge up there, and then continue back through the pink beads on the right, and then now you have all your thread bridges, and it makes it look similar up here at the top than it was down here at the bottom. Now for this you would just do something similar as far as adding the wire guard. So I'm just going to go back up through the first pink beads, doesn't matter which one, you just pick one and go up that part of the beads, then go up through your wire guard, go down the other side of the wire guard. I'm going to choose the beads that are on the opposite side again. So I'm over here on this side, so I'm going to go to the one that's on the opposite side. I'm going to go down 2 beads. Now we need to get back around so we can add a second thread path through there. So I'm over here off to the second bead on the left side. I'm going to go up the second bead of the pink one on the right side, but just that second bead. I'm not going to go up the first one. Then I'm going to twist it in my hand so I can get to that first row, the second of the pink beads, and then go through just that first bead. So we're going in a different diagonal direction. And then I caught onto the wire guard, and then you go down the other side of the wire guard just like you did with all the others. And then once that's complete, then you would tie off just like you did with the other ones. So meet me back in just a moment and we'll go through stitch number 5. Stitch number 5, which is 3 bead twisted herringbone. So I've got my 3 colors here. I've got the darker color, and then we'll call this green, and then we'll call that probably turquoise or light green, something like that. So I'm going to pick up 2 of the first color and 2 of the second color. We're going to do ladder stitch yet again. So pull these all down. Well, get a comfortable amount to hold on to, and or enough to be able to add your wire guard if you choose to do that. And then we're going to do ladder stitch with the 3 colors. So I've got the darker color, and then the turquoise, and then the lighter, or I think I called it darker color, green, and then turquoise. We'll do that. So we'll go back up through the lighter color. So now you have your 3 rows of your ladder stitch. Well, 2 rows of ladder stitch, but with 3 colors. And then now I'm coming out of the top bead up here. So I'm going to go to the first one and go down the top one of the first row and make this into a loop. Now we have to complete the bridge, the thread bridge down here in the bottom. So go back up through the last row. And then when you pull all that tight, it now looks like a little triangle. So there you go. Alright, so now we're set up to where we can actually start right away. So to do the 3 bead herringbone, we're going to pick up a bead that we're coming out of, where the thread's coming out of right now. We're going to pick up that color, and then we're going to be beading in a left hand fashion again. So then we're going to pick up the bead that we're going into. So first bead is the one we're coming out of, and then the second one is what we're going into, which is the turquoise color and then the dark color. So this part we're going to do something similar to what we did with the twisted herringbone. We're going to go down 2, up 1. So proceed down 2 on the left hand side. Twist it in your hands. And then we're going to go up 1, which is the green bead. So on an odd count herringbone, you now only have 1 more bead to add before you have to step up again. Just like that. See, there's 3 of the turquoise color, and then there's only 2 of the green. So we're going to go ahead and pick up the 1 green that we need to add. Then we're going to proceed like we've been doing, down 2, up 1. So we're going to go down 2 of the turquoise. When you do that, now you have your 3 beads, your 3 rows of all 3 colors. Twist it in your hand, and we're going to go up 1 again. So the only difference between this stitch is that you never really do a step up. You always go down 2, up 1, down 2, up 1. So now you're set up to where you're going to add your dark color plus your green color, because you're coming out of the dark and you need to pick up a second bead of the color that you're going into. So then down 2, whoops, not 3, just 2. You'd go down 2, and my beads are twisted. Come on now. Thank you. There we go. and then twist it in your hands and go up 1. And then on this row, you have to add your turquoise as your 1. Now when you go up through that 1, you kind of want to, give it a little small tug so it kind of sits off to the side a little bit. See how it sits off to the side, or it's starting to. And pick up the 1 bead, go down your 2 dark greens, or your 2 dark colors, and then get set up to add your next bead. So twist in your hand one more time, and we're going to go up 1 of the greens. So now you're set up to where you're going to add a green one, and then a turquoise one. So green and turquoise, still going down 2, up 1. So go down 2, twist it in your hands, and go up 1 of the dark beads. Then we're going to add 1 dark bead, go down 2 of the green, and then up 1 of the turquoise. And then now, this looks similar to what we started off with, which is now the turquoise and the dark. So you pick up your 2 beads, go down 2, twist it in your hands, go up 1. Just like that. So go ahead and complete the amount that you want for this one, and then leave yourself 2 of each one of these color beads, and then meet me back and we will finish this one off, and I'll show you how to add the wire guard for this guy. When you're done with your 3 bead twisted herringbone, it should look something similar to this. So this is another one that I really like to use, and I've used this in other tutorials as well. So if you're confused with the way that I'm saying it on this one, then I'll have a link down in the description of the other tutorial as well, where I go through this same stitch, just in case you need it. Alright, so now we're down to our last 2 rows. So we're going to pick up the last beads just like we did in the very beginning. So 2 of the black, or the dark, and then 2 of the green. We're going to continue our stitch like we have been, so down 2, up 1. We're just adding 2 beads, or 2 rows on this last one. And then we're going to add the last 2 of our turquoise color. So then now we're going to go down 4, because we have to go through the 2 beads that we added, but we're going down 2, and then we're going to go back up 1. So we're going down 4 beads in this one. Twist it in the hands, and then we're going to go up 1, but in this case we need to go up actually 3 because of the 2 beads that we added in the last one. So then that puts the last little part on there. So now let's complete our thread bridges up here. So we're coming out of the green bead right now. We're just going to go over to the turquoise bead, go down the 2 beads that we went on the turquoise on the left, complete your ladder stitch, go up the 2 green beads, green beads on the right. Sounds like I'm saying green beans. I think I'm hungry anyway, my stomach's been growling. So now when you twist it in your hands, you're coming out of the left side. Now we're going to go through the dark beads that are on the right. We're going to connect these 2 colors by going through the green beads on the left. And then I think everything is connected now. So there you go. So wire guard there again, pick up your wire guard, go through the bottom. Well, apparently my eyes don't want to see where the hole of the wire guard is. And then go down the side. And then this one's going to be very similar to the other ones. We're going to just pick a set of beads to go through. So I'm going down 2. And then this, I'm just going to go ahead and go back up the 2 on this side. And then go ahead and go through the wire guard. And then you go back down the other side again. So I'm just going through 2 out of the 3. You can do it in different ways. You can actually move around to this one and then go up that side too if you wanted to, but I'm just doing it in that way. And then you would tie this one off, and then you would be done with this stitch. So that completes our 5 stitches. So meet me back and I will show you the different links as far as which stitches which stitches end up being longer than the others, even though we've used 96 rows in each one of the 5 stitches. So I'll be back and I'll show you those differences. Alright, so this shows you the differences in the lengths of the different stitches, even though we did 96 rows of each one of these types. Whoops, as I moved that one over. So this was our first one, and that was my prototype to figure out, okay, how much is 6 inches of the typical herringbone? That's where I got the 96 rows from. So that's the first one, and then this one, our second one, is actually pretty movable. So it can actually stretch out to something a little bit longer. But then ours are tubular, our twisted tubular, and then our 3 bead twisted herringbone. So there's the differences and everything. Now, as far as the necklace is concerned, I just combined these together to where I think I had it to where it was this one, and then I think 3 was attached. Second one was in the middle, and then I had this one sitting there, and then this one sitting here. And that was kind of just so I can get the green beads kind of separated from each other. They're not the same color green beads in every single one of these, but I use the same color in this one as I did in this one, and then this one has the same color as the pink in this one as well. So that way I just kind of separated them out, and then it made this one be in the center. So that's how you would just attach your different pieces with a couple of jump rings, and it made it long enough to where the necklace can actually go over the head. So that's how you would complete that if you like. Now, of course, like I said in the very beginning, you can always make this into a bracelet as well, and that would be something similar to what it would look like. This tubular herringbone makes good for bangle bracelets, if you like to have bangle bracelets where you just connect the whole thing together and then you just slip it over your wrist. That makes a really good option for that. This makes for a very beautiful bracelet. It's very nice, dainty, but still sturdy enough to be worn on the wrist. This one as well, just like that. And then of course you have your typical herringbone just like this, which always makes for a really good bracelet. So just some ideas to give you, so that way you have some other options of doing these stitches and making different items. Now that you've learned these 5 herringbone style stitches, try mixing 1 or 2 into a design of your own. If this tutorial helped, give it a like, subscribe for more bead weaving techniques, and let me know in the comments which stitch you're excited to use next.